great to see you after so long. But yeah, welcome back. Again, my name is Mario, and we met a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about kind of going through with your kind of a 24-hour recall. If you remember, kind of letting me know what it was that you had in the last 24 hours. But yeah, great to see you. Is there any new updates? Anything? How's it been? Tell me a little bit about what's happened since.
It's been a while actually since the last time, so I think some things have changed. Like I've introduced more like beans into my meals and more grains into my meals. So that's been nice. Been like experimenting like with different things and cooking. The last time I think I was here, I was like not doing much exercise, I think. Recently though, I got into swing dancing, so that definitely is something I do now.
Wow.
Like exercise, yeah.
That's wonderful. All right, yeah. Well, I'm very glad to hear that you incorporating some kind of changes and that. And how have you felt? Even things outside of maybe diet, any kind of life events or anything. How have you felt? I guess since your last meeting.
Well, things have been very busy because of preparing for finals week. I think I had some mental breakdowns here and there the past 2 weeks, and I have sleep problems, so that doesn't really help. So I'm not getting enough sleep. But really still trying to like incorporate things into my life so that I feel a little better, like eating well and exercising. But I'm doing better actually. I think what happened was I was just really down and I just needed a breather. I'm having a burnout from school. So yeah, I called my parents and had like a long talk, and I feel like that solved some of my problems, or the problems that were bothering me. I've always known that I had some sort of like, I don't know, like being vulnerable to having panic attacks. So it's very typical to have like the last 2 weeks of like, before finals, for me to freak out like that. And it's usually not very healthy for me. But I'm glad it's solved now, and I'm feeling better now as it approaches finals week, which is next week. So
that's impressive that you're still here. So that's definitely we're at least there. So I'm glad that you were able to come in in spite of all that, because I am familiar very much so with having struggling with finals, sleep, getting enough, having assignments coming up and sneaking up on you. It's tough. But I commend you for coming in and continuing to to think about even with all that what it is that you're eating, kind of how the kind of things your consumption of food, and so thank you for coming in. It's something that and it's something that I wish it's something that I think is necessary to kind of really let people know what they're doing right, and but give credit where it's due. So I commend you. And, but can you tell me a little bit about how all that stress, no doubt a lot of stress, and how that might have affected your eating?
So when I'm stressed, I know like when other people are stressed, they binge eat. I don't know how that happens because it doesn't happen to me. I rather would skip meals without knowing it. Like I would look at the time and it's like, oh my god, it's 2 p.m. and I'm like, I should eat lunch, So that kind of happened. I think I still because I do meal prep, so I think that's something that's good. I do meal prep at the beginning of the week. So then I would have meals prepped for the rest of the week. And what's good about that is if I remember, well, most likely I would have to remember because my stomach would hurt if I'm hungry. So I think the only thing that really changed was not what I ate, but when I ate. So now I think everything got shifted over a little. There were days where I would eat at like, let's say I wake up at 6 and I eat at 7. Sometimes my first meal is like 11. So I think that's also because I was sleeping such a weird schedule. So I think, yeah, I still ate 3 meals and I still snacked, but all the times were like moved, like forward or like backwards. Even like sometimes I might stay up until maybe 1, so I end up like eating a midnight snack at like 10. So that's usually not the case for me. I don't eat midnight snacks, but I end up doing it when I'm stressed because, you know, it gets delayed. But yeah, I think that's the only thing really.
That's, well, thank you for sharing that. And, you know, sometimes we might not realize how much it, a lot of the stress from our, you know, daily routines or you know, even the off, you know, the odd times when we do have really high, like instances of stress related to school, work, whatever it might be, how it might affect our eating. So, would you say that you could have, well, this was you kind of let me know about how what kind of changes occurred. How do you feel about the changes that occurred during that time while you were stressed? Do you think? Well, let me know your thoughts on that.
Like my eating pattern, or
yeah, like the change. Do you think? How do you think it affected you?
I think it affected me in terms of like energy wise, because I feel like stress already took up a lot of energy, like and a lot of brain power for having to study while you're stressed. And because I'm not eating on time, I think that really takes a toll on my body, because my body knows that it needs food.
Yeah.
It's like, I need energy to get this work done. It's not just, oh, I'm just going to keep working. So I noticed that I took naps, which I usually don't. Like, I usually don't take naps no matter how tired I am, because I just want to get my work done. But recently I've been like feeling kind of like tired and just doesn't have enough energy to go through the day without a nap.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and you said you used to not take naps.
Yeah.
And now with all the stress and the need for energy, you're kind of just been drained.
Yeah.
You need some kind of relief. So, hey, wow. Well, thank you for sharing that. You know, let's see what we can you know, taking that, let's see what we can kind of use to hopefully, you know, help you out in the best of ways for this meeting. You know, it is primarily centered on just kind of eating habits, but you know, a good healthy lifestyle isn't just necessarily nutrition and all that, but and, you know, food itself, but there's different components of that surround food.
Right.
Things like who you're eating with, where you're eating, at what times, and you know, how do you feel when you eat, and like so. And I think you know, making sure that we have all these factors with food are accounted for can really help to decrease a little bit of the stress, perhaps.
Right.
So, for instance, like you said, meal planning. So
Yeah.
that definitely would get if you kind of condense all of the worries from the week into one kind of long bit of just preparing for the whole week. It kind of removes a lot of the stress from having to think about that every day and having this, oh my God, what am I going to have egg to eat? What am I going to eat today? Or struggling in the morning to try to make something for lunch, right? So and that's wonderful to hear that you're kind of trying to stick to that, and so something to definitely continue if possible. But yeah, so thank you for sharing that, and so I'm gonna just back to our last meeting. Well, actually, was there anything else that you would like to share about the previously between the time we met last, and kind of summarizes it?
Yeah.
Got it. All right. And also one quick thing, I apologize, and even like where are my manners? Is it okay if I take notes during our meeting too?
Yeah.
Okay,
of
wonderful.
course.
I always like to ask in case students or some like it, some don't like it. So just the thought. But thank you. So kind of going back to our first meeting, we discussed a little bit of a recap. We did a 24-hour recall, kind of about what it was that you ate on the on that particular day, one day before our meeting, our first session. So here I have a little bit of kind of the rundown of what it was that you recorded and that we recorded together rather. And so on that day that we were called together, you mentioned just to very quickly run through it. A breakfast was your pot stickers with soy sauce and sesame oil, some quinoa with various veggies, things like tomatoes, cucumbers, avocado, spinach, lemon juice, sesame oil as well. Also some you also had like a snack, the Greek yogurt snack. So that was one thing I also mentioned. And then for your dinner, some white rice with chicken breast, and undecanted tomatoes, canned corn, cilantro, sour cream, cheese, and a little bit of avocado. So, and throughout the day, you mentioned that you tend to drink water at no specific times, just throughout the day.
Yeah,
so,
I'm not going to mark down the time for every time I drink water.
So that's kind of overkill, right? So yeah, just the fact that you get it in, that's pretty much what matters. So wonderful. And also on top of that, one thing we mentioned very at the end was that you take a couple of multivitamins and fiber supplements.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Now with that, very brief summary, would you say that could qualify as a typical meal on a day?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, very helpful. So that way, with that, I can kind of, based on that information, I was able to compile a little bit of reports and to kind of see, what possible areas of change, to explore. But so I have some down. However, I would like to get your opinion on it because one thing maybe I suggest, maybe not necessarily what you might think of myself. Can you tell me a little bit, maybe if your goal has changed since our first meeting, or what kind of behavior change would you like to work on with respect to our nutrition counseling?
Well, I mean, I have a lot of goals, so I'm like, which one? Yeah, one of them was definitely to get more exercise, even if I start small. Another one is because I'm trying a vegetarian diet. So I don't know if I mentioned that last time. Last time I was not. Okay, but this is new info.
Okay, wonderful. That's definitely something.
Yeah, so I started a vegetarian diet, I think a week or two after that. And it was because I watched this documentary it was this really sad documentary on overfishing, and it somehow got to me because they were just talking about environmental health, and I think that's one thing that I'm very passionate about. And so before I was like, okay, I'll still eat meat. Now I'm like, well, completely not, because the documentary was pretty gory. So after that, it was just like, I think a week or two after the last meeting with you, I stopped eating meat, and I had to try to incorporate like new things into my diet, which meant, foods with like more protein. So I'm currently like trying that too, like other than tofu, other than like other foods that I'm already eating with protein, like what else can I add into my meals that can make up for, the lack of protein because I'm not eating meat. So that's my current goal, to really try to incorporate more stuff into my meals. Okay. Yeah, because I don't eat as much too. I eat very little, so that's a huge issue. Because that just means I'm not sure whether I'm getting enough.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So kind of a couple of goals that you mentioned, more exercise, even if it's a little bit, starting small. And wanting to try a vegetarian diet. So that's wonderful. Trying new things, always something to kind of great to explore. So, and we can delve a little deeper into either one of those that you would like. If you would like to explore those, any other ones that you would like? Any other goals by chance?
Yeah, I think those two are the only ones right now that I can think of.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So between the two, maybe in future sessions we can always ideally we'd like to explore all of the goals and implement them. But at least I think we can, for starters, for this session maybe we can try to explore a little, kind of see which ones appeal to you most,
Okay.
and but between that one, between those two, is there any of those two in particular that you'd like to explore?
Maybe the vegetarian diet, like trying to introduce more protein into my meals, because I think in terms of exercise, in our last meeting, it was very light on exercise. I was just walking and pretty much like sedentary when I'm doing work. But since then, I've been incorporating like swing dancing, so I'm not too worried about exercising now, but rather I'm more worried about what I'm eating, because it's like like different diets have their I guess their complications, but I mean lacto-ovo vegetarian diet should be like, I think for me is an okay, like I can do it, because I can still eat dairy, eggs, and stuff like that. But of course, I need to find like other ways where I can incorporate more protein, and I don't have as much information on that, so it would be nice if I could get more info or suggestions on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So, with respect to the vegetarian diet, you would like to kind of explore, not limit to yourself, limit just meat consumption, or eliminate meat consumption,
Yeah.
and leaving eggs and dairy products.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what's going on. So like completely no chicken, no beef, no pork, no meat in general. I'm trying to like list it all. I'm like
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And you like to have like suggestions as far as what kind of foods, things to maybe substitute kind of for meats.
Right.
A lot of times, since it tends to be pretty popular, selection for protein, for instance. So we definitely can, and there are definitely a lot of resources that can help in that sense, kind of exchanging one food for the other, in the sense of for instance, instead of meat, to account for protein, there are things such as beans, for instance, are a big the meat of the vegetarian, essentially. So since those kind of in the same way function for that to kind of the satisfaction of feeling full, and also in addition to providing plenty of nutrients. So protein being one of them. So you kind of can swap out the meat for the beans. That's just one suggestion, but yeah. So there is a system that built in for that kind of can help with alternating and transitioning from a typical meat-based diet to more vegetarian. So wonderful. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for asking.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I want to make sure that I'm serving you as best I can according to what you'd like to do. So, so wonderful. And it kind of goes along with kind of what suggestions I had. So, since I did, with respect to for our last meeting, I did have a couple of suggestions with like just areas that of improvement. Essentially, not like this is a goal that you need to do, but more of kind of just let me prepare me to get some kind of background to go to work off of, in case you didn't necessarily have a goal, but it seems like you do. So wonderful. Some of them were actually can go on hand in hand with your vegetarian goal. So one of them, for instance, that I mentioned was here I had kind of increasing the volume of vegetables, fruits and
Mm-hmm.
vegetables, since I didn't notice that within your during your 24-hour recall,
Mm-hmm.
there was a little bit of I guess a deficit with respect to how
Mm-hmm.
much fruits and vegetables were consumed.
Right.
So that is one thing that I noticed, and you know, according to the dietary guidelines,
Mm-hmm.
if you're familiar with the new dietary guidelines for Americans published by the
Mhm.
USDA every 5 years, they update them.
Right.
They suggest for a woman of your age and
Mhm.
weight to consume an average about 2 cups of fruits and
Mhm.
vegetables per day each. So, and I believe in both of you may kind of you were under
Mhm.
it. So one thing that I thought to kind of mention, but
Mhm.
with the vegetarian diet, I think it will kind of help out a lot, since
It
you kind of have to
has.
base it on that, right? So
Yeah, it has.
um,
An interesting thing. So I'm not big on fruits, mostly because it's kind of like, I don't know. Back in the day, it was like fruits were my favorite thing. I eat them all the time, but then because of acid reflux, a lot of times when I eat apples, it doesn't work too well with my stomach.
ooh,
Yeah, but lately, I've been trying out something new. So I've been getting I think it's called Honey Crisp apples, something like that. But I really like that apple, and I was like, I'm gonna get more apples now. So every day I eat at least eat half an apple. But I try to leave it there until I feel like, okay, it's gonna be sweet, it won't hurt me, and then I eat it. But I'm slowly trying to incorporate new fruits into my diet. But right now it's just apples, just that one apple,
okay.
one type of apple. I haven't tried Fuji yet. I mean, I used to like Fuji. That was the to-go apple. But now I'm like, no. I mean, it doesn't work too well with me. So I'm trying out some other type of apple.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Does that tend to be? You mentioned that because of your acid reflux.
Yes.
Did that typically happen with more sour
Yeah,
things, more sour, more
yeah.
kind of acidic fruits, things like
Yeah.
berries, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
or there are a lot more sour apples, for instance. I think if
Yeah.
Gala, for instance, very sour.
Mm-hmm.
Pink Lady.
Yeah, I don't eat those.
Yeah, so those are pretty. I would. If acid is if more acidic fruits are kind of tend to be the trigger for that. Of course, it'd be advisable to steer clear from those. But there are also other varieties of the apples that are a lot sweeter, as you mentioned.
Right.
So if those are is there any adverse reaction that you've noticed to a lesser extent, or not at all?
Well, the new type of apple that I'm eating right now, the only time I think I've noticed that there are symptoms of acid reflux, or I don't feel so great, is when I eat it at night. So I try not to eat it at night. Eating it in the morning is not too good for me either. So I think the only way that I can eat the apples are if I eat it after lunch. So I eat lunch and then I eat apples. Or I can eat apples and then I eat lunch, but they have to be together. But I've tried it with other apples, and I guess maybe they're really sour. So it doesn't matter when I eat it, it just gives me symptoms of maybe heartburn, feeling like something is churning in my stomach, but I don't know how to describe the feeling.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then I would feel like maybe something's coming up my esophagus, and I'm like, oh, that's not a good feeling. So I try to avoid those. I used to love oranges. I eat it all the time.
Yeah.
My parents have I think a mandarin tree, and then another one with something similar to oranges, but I can't eat them. I can't eat them. And so I'm really sad because I used to eat oranges all the time. But now though, I try to leave the oranges. I leave them in my bowl and I let it sit there for a while until it gets really sweet, and that's when I eat it.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
but that usually takes a while, so
Yeah.
a few weeks, and it's darn.
It's sweet vegetables then, or sweet fruits, I should say.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah. Okay, that's good, very insightful. I appreciate that. Yeah, so that will help me out a lot with kind of giving you some suggestions. Obviously, not going to give you anything sour with fruits. You know, if we increasing fruits and vegetable consumption would be is one of the goals, or would be an ideal goal. And but and there's not necessarily we don't have to force you to eat any particular kind. So don't worry about that. We'll be sure to work with you as far as giving you suggestions for what kind of fruits, vegetables are sweeter, and kind of minimize any reaction with your acid reflux. So wonderful, thank you. All right, so with this, just kind of get an understanding of where you might fall with respect to how how you feel about the goal. So the one that about incorporating a vegetarian or lacto-vegetarian diet. So here we have a ruler of importance or confidence. So in this ruler, it's essentially just to rate your level of either confidence or or importance with respect to the goal. So you mentioned that you would like to incorporate that kind of diet. And on a scale from 0 to 10, 0 being the lowest, 10 the highest of importance or confidence, where do you think you would be in this on this range?
In terms of importance, I'll put it as like 10. In terms of confidence, because I've been trying it out the past weeks, so I think I'm at least on an 8.
Okay, wonderful. So you're great, you're right up there. So you want to make a change, and very confident in doing so. So and it's very important to you. Definitely, it seems like wonderful. Okay, so definitely work with that. So so let's see how much. Let's see what. Let's see. Give me 1 second. I'll just make a quick note.
Yeah, of course.
All right. So moving on, since we've discussed kind of any kind of hardships we've that you had during between the time we met last time and now. We've kind of gone over a little bit about our last meeting, kind of what we covered there, and it looks like we're going really well for establishing some kind of goal. So so congratulations. We're making progress, and I'm very confident that you can do it. So here I'm just here to support you. And one thing that I'd like to suggest, if you'd be willing, have you heard of SMART goals before?
Yes.
Okay, so wonderful. And so you're familiar with how SMART goals work to enhance goals, baseline goals, to make them, what SMART meaning, the SMART acronym, where it's specific, a goal that's measurable, it's achievable, it's relevant to what you're doing, and in time, of course, as you're familiar. So, the overall goal, I guess we could say, that you want to establish, and correct me if I'm wrong, is moving more toward a lacto-vegetarian diet.
Yes.
Alrighty, wonderful. So we can make that a baseline, and so if to make this a more SMART goal, we'll have to kind of take baby steps to kind of get to that point. So, so far, are there any particular barriers that you would kind of identify that would hinder you from moving more toward this lacto-vegetarian diet?
Well, I mean, this barrier is something I can address, I guess, but and I don't think there's anything I can fully change. It's like, whenever I go out with certain family members, no matter how many times I remind them that I'm lacto-vegetarian, they forget, and they ask for meat on meat, always meat. There are vegetables inside a meat dish, for example, but it would still be mixed into meat sauce because you're cooking it together.
Right.
And I'm sort of forced to be eating that with them because I mean, they're paying. I can't say I don't like your food, and that's kind of rude. So I think that's the only barrier really. But I don't see my family these relatives that often. It's just when I go home. But I mean, that would still be once in a while, and I guess that's a tiny barrier.
Okay.
Until they're more empathetic or until they understand my situation. But other than that, I think on my own, on a daily basis, I think there's no barriers. I mean, there was some barriers before, but I tried addressing it like meal planning and planning out grocery, shopping beforehand. So I've been incorporating more vegetables and more fruits into my diet. Like I've been getting more vegetables and then prepping that beforehand. Because before I was like, darn, now I have to prep zucchinis, and the next day it's like, I have to prep something else, and I don't want to do that. I mean, when you don't have time, you don't want to cook. So instead, I was like, might as well get all the vegetables and bake them.
Right.
Yeah, and then have it all prepped for the week, and that makes it so much easier. So that's been helping.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So meal prepping. Yeah. For me, as we mentioned, it's very useful to kind of reserve everything for just one single day for the rest of the week. That way you don't have to worry about it. And
I know.
So and baking is a wonderful way to do that. Having it already refrigerating and just and then eating it whenever you during mealtime. So wonderful. That's and I think that'll definitely help, especially in situations where there's not a whole lot of options that favor your goal. But always having that your meal next to you, near you, whenever you get hungry, kind of ensure you to promote your goal. Make sure that you don't minimize relapses or any lapses in general. So wonderful. That's a great action on your part. We can continue. And any other barriers that you think would like to address that might keep you from incorporating the vegetarian diet?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Alrighty.
In the past I've been I tried out being vegetarian for a year, but it was complicated. I had high cholesterol at the age of 11, so I found out then. I don't know when it started, but at 11 they said, okay, now you can get blood tests done, and that's when I realized I had high cholesterol. And I was told I shouldn't be eating any sort of meat because I was too young for meds. They still suggest I don't take medication right now because I'm in my early 20s. Yeah, so I tried the vegetarian diet when I was 11, and then eventually they were saying that I wasn't eating enough, so I was lacking certain things. And my family didn't know too much about the diet anyway, so it was kind of hard. So they suggested that I move back to just eating very little meat, but try to at least eat some, but not a lot. But I mean, now I'm after watching a documentary plus my own health benefits, I'm trying to switch over to vegetarianism again. So it's not too hard because I've tried it before and it wasn't hard for me. So now I feel okay, I've tried it before, it's fine, I can do it, and I'm pretty set on it too. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for sharing that, and kind of giving me a little more insight on kind of your motivation behind it. So it looks like by incorporating this, that you might be able to address that a little, your cholesterol levels, and to improve the condition, and I think because this eliminates eliminates me, for instance. There's a big risk factor as far as cholesterol goes, and I think it'll definitely be of help in that sense. So we can. So I think going forward with this goal would be help you out in many ways. Not only just ethically, of course, as you mentioned with the documentary, but personally too, with your medical conditions. So wonderful. So I guess just it'll be a matter of if we can make some kind of smart goal with your vegetarian diet, and so let's see, looking at a, okay, you might give me 1 second.
Yeah, go ahead.
This. All right, so one thing that you mentioned was social pressure, with respect to maybe eating out with family, which it could definitely be a source of a lot of stress if you when you're trying to make some kind of diet change. So, how does it sound to what do you think of the idea of making that maybe some kind of SMART goal with respect to your vegetarian diet? Do you think that's it's a big enough barrier that it might warrant some kind of SMART goal? Okay.
Yeah, like I know I won't have a relapse, but the problem is I would be forced to do something I don't want to do. And in that case, maybe I should just learn how to say, okay, I don't want to be rude, but can I, ask for my own food? Because it's usually all family style. So it's like the people who are going to pay are going, or like elderlies are going to have to choose, right? And I'm like, well, I don't want to eat this, Yeah. And then they say, oh, you're ungrateful. And it's like, no, it's not that. I mean, I'm trying to try something out, and you're not being supportive. So yeah, so I think that's a great enough barrier, because sometimes I have friends that are like that too. They kind of disrespect, I guess, what I want to do, and I don't know. I mean, maybe my SMART goals should be that I need to learn how to say no, or learn how to say,
and there are tools we can use to do that. With respect to getting some kind of to alleviating the social pressures, a lot of times it would be it's there's definitely multiple ways that you can address this. So one big suggestion is of course, obviously, I guess one big thing is just being prudent in the sense, like if you're able to get some kind of if you have some kind of leeway with respect to choosing where to go eat or what to eat, taking the initiative of making those suggestions and being really adamant.
Right.
Very helpful when you go out to eat, just so that if you know like your family might be going to a location, some kind of restaurant that maybe doesn't have a whole lot of ways, a lot of options in the way of vegetarian. It'd be nice. It'd be very helpful, perhaps, to adamantly suggest, how about we go at said location, or this? How about this restaurant? They also have that serves both kinds of foods that both you're looking for and your family's up for. So one little mini suggestion, but additionally, one thing that you could is kind of let's see, I'm forgetting. Am I remembering this correctly? Okay. Another suggestion would be to kind of there's two ways to approach it. You could either have it if you know that you're going to some kind of social function where there might not be some kind of a food option that's favorable in your sense and with respect to your goal. You could also opt to eat beforehand a little bit to kind of
that's smart.
Yeah. So one thing, and it's I have another client who had the same kind of strategy. So whereas they had anticipated some kind of event coming up, and they know that their family doesn't necessarily. It's not that they don't support their diet, but if it's between catering to them, or to just going out and eating whatever they want, of course they're going to do that just because the majority of the family is that way. So one thing that she was suggesting is to eat beforehand, kind of at her house, before going off to the either to have family party or a restaurant. It's she would to eat some of her some food that she prepares, some salad, whatever it might be, but some food that she prepared herself that she knows what's in. So that when she goes to the party or whatever it might be, there's usually things that are things like fruit, things like vegetable platters that can kind of that she can kind of just be comfortable with having something in front of her, so that not just stand out. Since that's always something of worry. So that is also a suggestion if you'd be interested.
Yeah, I'm interested in that one.
Okay, yeah. So wonderful. We can make that even a SMART goal. So and one last one, I guess, kind of going hand with this is to bring something along. So if especially with family parties, people typically bring things along or have agreed to bring some kind of dish. So if you're up for it, in case there's some kind of family party, would maybe making something, a dish that you enjoy, bring it along to have shared along with other family members, just so that not only you'll have something to eat, but that they can probably try, just to kind of, be more inclusive. And
so I think that's a good idea.
They kind of go hand in hand. But is this something like you'd be interested in? Okay, wonderful. So let's very quickly do that then. So your overall goal is the lacto-vegetarian diet.
Yes.
One barrier that we see is that sometimes social pressures with family parties, functions, or what have you, will kind of keep you from exercising that. So a specific goal might be for to either you can and we can make this either way. So depending on how you feel, you can opt to do either option one, which is eat beforehand, or option two, which is make something and bring along to the party. And you don't necessarily have to choose one or the other. I'll leave that for you to kind of, depending on how you feel that particular day.
I think the first one is better because usually with my family, it's less about parties, but more about like going to a restaurant. And I think, you have to sit there and stare at people. So I'd rather like eat beforehand, and then when I get there, if there are options, then I'll eat it. Like, cause sometimes there are dishes where they have like tofu or like something that's not meat. So, I mean, it's not filling enough because there's like 10 plus people at the table. So you would have to share among them. So I think eating beforehand for these situations are good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll go with that. So cool. Wonderful. All right. So the way that we can, I guess, frame this is for the next, we're not really sure how many family parties you might have within the next time we meet. But let's say, let's just put a baseline number of. We'll make it for the next 3 parties, depending on give or take how many you might have. You can you'll eat some kind of meal, some kind of snack to kind of keep you full, satisfied before going to the occasion.
Yeah, occasion.
And that way it's this is specific. You're going to eat just one meal or one snack, and obviously measurable, so you can see how for the next 3, 4, 5, however it might be. Occasions, something achievable. Would you say it's something achievable? Something small, not too not extravagant. So and really relevant to your goal. So so that you will can be I guess in compliance with your desired diet. So and then of course another time frame, the last in the SMART goals, I think we can make it until our next meeting. So we can schedule that. We can either do two weeks or a month, however you like, according to your schedule. And then we can kind of report. You can kind of give me back some feedback of what you might have accomplished, and if it's helpful for you, you can also record it, kind of going along. And I can also provide you with some kind of materials with that to record your goals along the way with each occasion. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah. So I think we that covers we made a lot of progress today. So
Yeah.
how do you feel? Anything else you'd like to add with the meeting?
I feel like I addressed everything, and I really like how I think talking about it helps me connect all the dots. Like I would usually not think about, okay, I'm stressed, so I'm not eating on time, and like why maybe that leads to napping more, which I don't usually nap. So it's good. I think we've made progress, and I think coming up with a SMART goal like that will help me a lot because I've been struggling with it. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't have any questions.
All right, wonderful. Well, that kind of sums it up for me too. But thank you for being so willing and coming, like with even with all this stuff that's happened. And I think hopefully we could take something away from this, and I'm pretty excited to hear about how it turns out with you. And it's very exciting. I'm excited for you. So, and I'm very confident you can do it. And,
Thank you.
Yeah, of course, and always here to support. So that kind of I think we just finished just a little time. So we're going to just wrap it up there, and we'll until next time then.
Okay,
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I'll see you.